Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, good evening. I'm Rose Murphy and I'm the president of Quebec Federation of Home and School. And I would like to start with acknowledging the Kanien'kehá:ka as the custodians of the lands and waters of the island of Montreal. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our recognition of their hospitality on this traditional and unceded territory on which we gather today and for the past 80 years. Hey, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to tonight's President's Workshop being led by Samantha Patel, our Vice President, and she was a former home and school president at Merton Elementary. She's also presently the chair of the Education Committee. And also we have Bobby. I don't see Bobby. Is Bobby here?
Just letting her in right now. She skated underneath the door.
Okay.
She grabbed her hat.
Good. And Bobby Brown, the former home and school president at St. Thomas High School and presently the chair of our membership committee. The other members of the board that are here, I'd like you to know there's Mimi Tabachnik, who's our executive assistant, Carol Mindel, who's our executive director, right? I have Marlon Brownrigg, who are a membership guru, and Natasha Drysdale, who is the executive VP. I have Cindy Karnofsky, who is just about everybody. She helps everybody in this group. She's a very important employee, or not employee, but one of our members. I have Carolyn. I'm trying to see them all. Carolyn Vignette, who's from John Rennie High School, is a member of our council. Bobby is there, of course. Is that it? I don't see anybody. Am I missing anybody?
You mentioned Samantha?
Well, I introduced her as the person giving the workshop. Okay. So that's it. So then I would especially thank those new executive members who have taken on the role of president and vice president of your home and school. Thank you so much. Okay. So there are just a few housekeeping items. We're planning half-day in-person fall conference on November 16th. It's going to be open to all parents. And so please save the date. And we're asking our home schools to allocate some funds for the parents to attend. We still haven't heard about a school wanting to basically host it. So we're hoping we find someone before the 16th.
No, we have some leads.
We have leads, but we're not definite leads yet. Okay, yeah. No problem. And I'm sure many have heard that we have school board elections that are going to be taking place on November the 3rd. So please, please, please get your name on the voters list. If you're not on already, get your 18-year-olds who have graduated and are automatically on the French list. We've got to get them back on our English list. And it's very important for the English community that we get out there and vote. Okay, so Samantha, I shall turn it over to you, my dear. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rose, and welcome, everybody. So the structure of the meeting tonight, we will not be reading all of the kit documents, but we will be giving you supplemental information as we go along. So please take notes. If you have any questions about any items in the kit, please ask them or put them in the chat as we go along. There will be time for general questions at the end of the presentation. If you have been at the other workshops, you will notice that some of the information being shared tonight is being duplicated, so please bear with us. The QFHSA, the QFHSA staff is tag teaming it into the office, but we're always available by email. Mimi, the QFHSA office administrator, will be running the slideshow for us tonight. Thank you. And she is also a former home and school president at St. Patrick Elementary School. Membership's court service coordinator, Marlon Brownrigg, will monitor the chat and answer your questions as we go along. So in our kit, our first thing that we have is About Us flyers. This has been updated and is available in digital and or printed format. They're all available. The one other flyer we have is What is a Home and School Associate? This is also a new document. The QFHSA mission statement has your home and school lots of sway, becoming a fundraising machine, or forgotten about community involvement. Post this mission statement and read it a few times a year. These above 3 documents are all available on the QFHSA website and may be printed. We do have hard copies of the It's About Us flyers in the office, so you can request them if you wish. Just contact Mimi at the office and she'll connect you to that. The next thing we have in our executive is our executive list, our local association renewal form, and the administration fee. These are all due by September 30th, but Marlon would like the executive list as soon as it's ready. Also, we would like the executive's memberships fees by check or e-transfer as soon as possible. Documents can be sent in by email or by mail. You want all of them sent by, Marlon, did you want the QFHSA membership list also by mail, or that one only by email?
That's by email, the membership list, yeah.
Okay, so just the membership list by email, but any of the other documents, you can send them by either mail or email. If by now, if you have not received any information from the QFHSA, it is because we don't have this year's executives list. So please send it in. E-bulletins are sent via constant contact, so check your spam folder every week. If you would prefer that the QFHSA uses a generic home and school email address, please highlight this on the executive list that you submit. The local association renewal form, this document requires signatures and can be scanned to Marlon's attention. And the administration fee, I think we did that one, right? We saw that one. So this is the one for your local home association, which is also due by September 30th. Perfect. The general timelines for our home and school associations. So we're going to pages, these are 9 and 10. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mimi. These deadlines, the deadlines each year are more or less the same, and honoring these deadlines will keep your association in good standing. If your membership chair is new, please share this timeline with him or her. I'm going to go over a few highlights. I'm not going to read them all, but you do have them in your kit. So in September, I think most schools have had this, but ask to speak to the parents at Meet the Teacher Night and have a membership table set up. Advertise your first home and school meeting via Kitty Mail or the school's digital platform, whichever one you choose in your school. The 2023-2024 Presidents and Treasurers reports were due in July, so they are overdue. Last year's executive should be sending them in as soon as possible. The QFHSA fall news deadline was September 16th, so it is now closed, but the next one will be coming up and you'll see that later. Make sure you have permission to use any photo at any time. Send them in at the highest resolution possible. So if you're submitting anything for the QFHSA news, please make sure you have consent to use them. In October, we suggest promoting the QFHSA Fall Conference, which is going to be held on November 16th at your home and school meeting, and send registration information to your members. Parent education is part of the home and school mandate, so allot funds to send parents to the fall conference and ask them to report back on the workshops. Please note that the QFHSA will subsidize travel and or accommodations for members wishing to attend from outside the Montreal regional area. October 31st is the deadline for the first batch of membership fees, and the first lists are due. As we know, those who membership lists can be added on, like people will join later and later in the year, but we would like the first cut of your list by October 31st. In November and December, we have the fall conference on November 16th, so please highlight this date. We would love to see as many people as possible. We love seeing everybody. On December 1st, the QFHSA starts their insurance renewal process. If the admin fee, the first batch of membership fees, and the first membership list have not been received, your association will not be included in the insurance policy. So it's very important that you make sure that those documents are sent in with the payments. The winter news deadline will be December 18th. In January, January 27th is Family Literacy Day. Plan a community event or an event with your school librarian. Start a Born to Read program. You can contact Marlon for more information on this. It's also Staff Appreciation Week planning time. If your home and school has concerns about the state of education, think about submitting a resolution to the QFHSA Rights and Resolution Committees. Promote joining the QFHSA Board of Directors. So all this kind of happens in January. February, it's TESOL month. I know some people say, when is Teacher Appreciation? Different schools will do it on different weeks, but it's usually sometime done in February. Some people may go into March, but that's something your home and school can decide. If you're going to change your constitution and bylaws, check the deadline for notices to your membership. If you're going to continue with online home and school meetings, these changes should also be reflected in your bylaws. Another item is look at nominating educators, volunteers, or programs in your school for the QFHSA Major Awards. The QFHSA knows there are great programs and educators in your schools, and they should be recognized. But the home and school should nominate them. Okay, so if you're taking a look at some of the volunteers, make sure your home and school executives or members are the ones nominating. Description of these major awards are on the QFHSA website. A member of the home and school executive must submit the nomination for all major awards. In March, send in your Golden Torch and Unsung Hero nominees. These are local awards to recognize volunteers who go above and beyond. For a small fee, the QFHSA will also issue a certificate and provide a label pin. Appoint delegates to the QFHSA AGM. This does not have to be an executive member. Discuss the QFHSA resolutions at your meeting so your delegate can vote according to the wishes of your members. The person votes as a representative of your association and not as an individual. So you don't have to for the AGM. It doesn't have to be an executive member who attends. You can, in one of your home and school meetings, you can delegate this to somebody who is a member and have them sent so that they can vote on behalf of your association. The QFHSA Spring News deadline is March 11th, so please mark the date. April and May, QFHSA AGM and Awards Dinner. The date is still yet to be determined. Allocate funds to send your award winners to the luncheon and dinner. And this will also be the final call for Unsung Hero and Golden Torch winners. May, June, and July. Your home and school AGM and elections are most likely happening. Send in your year-end reports to the QFHSA. QFHSA Summer News deadline will be June 19th. I will now turn it over to Bobby.
Thanks. Hi, good to see everybody. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone and I can't tell if I am on camera. Am I?
You're good, Bobby. Yeah.
Okay, because I can't see myself, because I
Yeah,
can't see a
all right,
screen.
Don't
As
worry,
long
we
as you
can see you.
All right, good. I had a lot of
I gotcha.
computer difficulty before I got on. I just managed to get in. I just managed to open the documents. Crazy. Anyways, so we're going to look at the president's duties, page 11. So just some of the highlights. So it's really important to liaison with the principal. You're the main contact. Now you want to be the only person pretty much liaising with the principal. You don't want the principal to have to field different emails from all kinds of people, some of whom may or may not be representative of your local home and school association. So it should just come from one person. You're going to want to create a cohesive group. You're encouraging cooperation amongst the members. Make sure that when you make decisions that it's better to come to consensus rather than a vote. You want people to agree on things. The president acts as ex officio on all committees. That means that anytime a subcommittee is set up, the president is automatically considered a member of each of those committees. They are welcome to join. They do not have to participate, but they are welcome to join and are a member of every committee that is struck up by the home and school. The president is also responsible to create the meeting agenda, review the minutes before they go out to the general population, just to see if there's anything that's been left out or not appropriate. The president should also know and have an intimate knowledge of the Constitution and bylaws of the association. If you don't know, you really should read it. You should keep a copy at your meeting. So anytime that something comes up and you're not sure what are we supposed to do in this instance, then you could consult your Constitution and bylaws. If you don't have a Constitution and bylaws, we can help you with that. Marlon can help you with that. It's also not a bad idea to have a copy of Robert's Rules, the parliamentary procedure on hand, so that could help guide you in your meetings as well. You want to make sure that all the documentation is submitted to QFHSA in a timely manner. We talked about that earlier. You also want to make sure that all fundraisers and events are presented to the governing board like in enough time for them to approve it before you want to go ahead. So it's a really good idea to know when governing board is meeting. It's a really great idea to go to governing board meetings if you want to know the honest truth, because it's good to foster that relationship with governing board. The duties of a co-president or a vice president can vary by association. It's pretty much up to you to figure out how you want to run that role. But it's an opportunity for somebody to learn how to become president. They can share the workload with the president. They can work with them. They can take over certain parts of the president's jobs. They can talk to the principal. They could be on some of the committees. They could handle some of the correspondence from the QFHSA and so on. The duties of that job can be spelled out in the bylaws of your association, because that really does vary from group to group. Secretary. So the secretary is very important. They have to record an impartial account of the meeting. So they don't have to take down every single word that is written, but you want to be able to have the gist of what's going on. If something is being discussed and there's certain concerns, the discussion could talk about what happened without saying who said what. They also want to make sure that they have a record of allocation of funds so that you know what you're spending your money on. The attendance should also be included with the minutes. That way, if somebody says, hey, who decided we're going to spend the money on this, that, or the other thing? And was there quorum like at the meeting? So if you go back to your minutes and you say, oh, well, we had, 25 people show up at this meeting and, 75% voted in favor of that, you can go back and say, hey, we're okay. We have permission to do this. The quorum would be according to your constitution and bylaws. So every organization might say their quorum is different. I know we had a very small home and school when I was at St. Thomas, and we had said that quorum was something like 3 executive members and 2 other members. It was quite low. So you really could decide from your organization how you want to do that. So, and also the secretary and the president together, you want to make sure that people who are making motions and people who are voting are members of your home and school. They have to be paid up members. The minutes is also to be sent out by the secretary. But like I mentioned earlier, the president would review the minutes. So what we usually did was we had the secretary send the minutes first to the president, and then the president would send the minutes out with the announcement of the next meeting. You might want to have some hard copies of the minutes available at the meetings in case people didn't have a chance to read them ahead of time. So this is a good way for them to make sure they see them. Okay, to help the secretary, the the president can also send out a synopsis to the membership after every meeting with time-sensitive information. So we used to call it a meeting summary report. So if there is like things that were decided at the meeting and they can't wait for another month before you have your next meeting, and people need to have the information, you know, let's say there's what's happening on a PED day and there's a pizza lunch next Thursday or something is going on, you might want to let your membership know sooner rather than later. Okay, and page 13, agenda sample kits. So the agenda is best prepared and sent out a few days before the meeting along with the draft minutes. That way people have an idea of what's happening. Minutes from the past meeting can't really be posted unless the home and school approves it. So minutes can only be posted like a month later. So at your meeting, you'll approve the minutes of the previous meeting. There is some question about posting financial statements in public place. It could lead to a lot more questions than answers, especially if fundraisers like pizza lunches are collected in chunks. Numbers need explanations. So it's good to share the financial information with your membership at meetings. Pardon me, but you probably don't have to post that online. If there are any online votes that have taken place, you want to have a record of them in the minutes. So we call that ratifying votes. So if the president had sent an online vote out and you got the numbers back, this way there's a record of what the vote was, that the vote was passed. So let's say the president says, oh, you know, I just found out that we need to spend $200 on I don't know, whatever, something, and then they send it out to the membership, and the membership says yes. So in the following agenda, the president says, okay, there was a motion that was sent out to spend $200 on whatever, and it was the email vote passed, and that way you have it in your minutes. So also, if anybody questions it, then it is recorded. QFHSA should be an item on your agenda. You should be sharing the information that the QFHSA, Samantha, you stumbled and so am I.
QFHSA.
Right, like I haven't said it enough. Thanks, Movie.
No, come to the office for a day and answer the phone, and I promise you by the end of the day you'll get it like that.
It's a tongue twister. No, I say it all the time. QFHSA, QFHSA. Say it 10 times fast.
Good morning, QFHSA.
So we send out information to the presidents, but the intent is often for the entire membership. So it would be great if you can kept QFHSA as an agenda item and just had it there so you can always bring forth the news. You know, membership wants to know about fall conference, the resolutions that we're working on. When is the AGM? When is the awards banquet? You know, maybe you were in our newsletter and you want to share that information. So keep it on your agenda.
So, excuse me, Bobby, before I go to the next slide, I just want to jump in. We have quite a flood of questions, and I think some of them are going to require some one-on-one answering, but some might be generally important for everyone to hear. Would you mind pausing while either Marlon or Samantha or anyone else would like to answer?
Sure,
questions?
I can't see any of the questions, so if anybody...
No, it's okay. Yeah, for sure. So, Marlon, did you want to start, or Samantha, by going through a couple of them? Because I can say that as vice president, an executable position, it should be voted on. It should. It's definitely a position that is an executive position. All executive positions are voted positions. Later on, and I had a personal one-on-one text for this, and I won't mention names, but there was a question of if you have 3 people running for president, how do you define who's the vice and forward? So that if it's not stated in your bylaws,
I can answer that if you want.
Yeah, sure, Bobby, go ahead.
Okay, so if you have 3 people running for president, then it's a single position. So you would have the election for president and 2 people would not win that election. You would subsequently be voting for your vice president, and the other 2 would have the option of running for vice president.
And
They're
so on
different
down the
positions.
line.
Right. So if
Yeah.
somebody loses the position of vice president, they could run for secretary or treasurer or membership or whatever other executive. But that's when you have an election, somebody wins and somebody loses. So each position is a position on its own. It's not like you have a slate that you just put you slot people in.
Exactly. So there was another question Marlon answered, but I'm going to read it out loud for everyone. It's whether you should stagger the terms, and you absolutely should. It allows for some members, if you especially a 2-year term where you can alternate, let's say you have 6 positions that are voted on, 3 would come up for renewal for a 2-year period, and then the next year another 3 would come up for a 2 years. So there's always someone to pass the information along, vendors, administration, things like that are important, so that there's not a whole slew of new people, which happens. And that's why we're here at the office. Marlon especially will help, a brand new home and school or a whole new rinse and restart of an executive, which happens on occasion. But yes, definitely try to stagger it if you can.
I just wanted to add something about the staggering. We had this discussion on my home and school when I was at West Park, and one of the things we discussed that president and vice president should not be staggered differently, because then the president could never pass on her term after her term to the vice president to take it on. So we always said they should have the same 2-year term. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Quorum was another question, and that's most of the time it's defined in your bylaws. Some people go by half plus 1 of the second attended meeting of the year or the last attended of the previous, so that you get a head count. It's not based on membership, because if you did that, you'd have to have honestly, you could have 50 people who are registered for your home and school, but only 10 regulars that come to every meeting. You would never be able to pass anything. So attendance at the meeting is a good way to kind of gauge what your quorum should be. Marlon, oh yeah, there were Robert's Rules questions. So there seems to be an interest in it. I don't mind passing along from the office. We have our AGM kit that goes out with our book of reports at the end of the year. Within that is a document that we created that has like a cheat sheet of ways of running meetings, and also acronyms for organizations in Quebec you might come across. And lastly, a brief version of the Robert's Rules. So I'll put that together in a 3-pack and I'll send it to everyone who's here at the meeting, so you can have reference to that. But Marlon did put in here that, and I love that, there's a Robert's Rules for Dummies, and you can buy it at the bookstores, and that's a great one to have on hand because our cheat sheet's just a quickie. So if you have any really more in-depth questions, that's probably a good one. Any possibility of having okay, so I've got some personal questions here. Should the president and co-president be voting, and does it count for quorum vote? Yes, the president and vice president can vote unless they're putting the motion forth.
Or unless it's in your bylaws that the president doesn't vote.
Yeah,
there's some places the
chance.
president would vote in the case of a tie. But if there's a tie, you know that the issue's contentious. So you might want to defer it, get more information, or start a subcommittee. Because if half your quorum isn't happy with the decision, things might not go well the next meeting or whatever activity you're planning. So this is why you need bylaws. You don't need them until you come up on questions like this. So the templates are on the website for the Constitution and the bylaws, and you'd start a small committee and I'd work with you. The bylaws can usually be amended at the annual general meeting, but get in touch with me and we'll go through them, because some of them say that they can be amended at a special meeting and you don't have to wait till next year. But I'm in the office tomorrow, so if someone wants to give me a call or email me personally, I can look up your file tomorrow. I'll make a note of it now, though.
Yeah, Marlon, because we have a question as well. If we have an executive committee, can the bylaws be modified? Absolutely. Yeah, that's as Marlon said, you can. But if there's any questions for any of these things that go beyond what you're hearing here, contact us via email. We're happy to shoot you off responses. We both check them all day long, so it's all good to go whenever you need any help. I'm sorry, Bobby, you can continue.
Okay, are we good? Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm glad to see there's so many questions. It means that you're all paying attention. All right, so we're going on to meeting kits, page 14. Okay, so nowadays, since COVID, we all started holding online meetings, which is really awesome sometimes. You might want to record the meeting because we now have that option, but you must ask permission before you're going to do recording, just like we did here tonight. The recording is usually just to help the secretary with the minutes and not for any other purposes. The principal might not be comfortable with being recorded. So it's a good idea that once you finish with your recording and finish with the minutes, maybe you can erase it. You don't need to keep it forever. Try to keep your meetings under 90 minutes. I know sometimes it's difficult, but if you have a planned agenda and you try to stick to a time, then you should be able to do that. So like I mentioned earlier, have a copy of Robert's Rules and your Constitution and bylaws handy. Tips for running a successful meeting. Respect people's time, start on time, avoid personal issues, ensure that proper motions and votes, especially for financial decisions, have gone through and are recorded. Okay, because you like I said earlier, that sometimes people might question decisions, and you want to make sure that those have come up in your minutes. Allot times for each agenda item and try to keep a speakers list so that everybody who wants to weigh in has a chance to speak, and we're not having arguments back and forth. If you are running a hybrid meeting, meaning some people are in person and some are online, ensure that everybody is recognized to speak. Sometimes it's really easy to forget about the people who are online. You could ask someone like the vice president or any other person to be the second set of eyes and monitor the chat, just like we're doing tonight, because I can't see the chat while I'm speaking. You could ask people to stay muted unless they wish to speak, or you can use something called an owl or some kind of other contraption that is a speaker that people can use when they're online. I'm sure if you want to know more about this, we can let you know if you call the office. If you're going to be using Zoom for some or all the meetings, okay, just keep in mind that Zoom no longer offers home and school access to educational accounts at a discount. So you might have to ask your school board if they can open an account for the home and school so you can meet for longer than 40 minutes. If not, use Teams or Google Meet, or you can allocate funds to purchase a Zoom account. Or you can have everybody log in after 40 minutes, and then that's a great way of losing people. Okay, so now we're going to have samples of documents that we have collected from various home and school associations. Rules of order for meetings. So kit pages 15 and 16. There's samples from local association. You also might want to write up procedures, standing rules for online banking, event reports, etc. These are not part of your constitution and bylaws because you might want to change them. And you can do that at a monthly meeting. Page 17, 18, volunteer code of conduct. Okay, I'm not really seeing what you have up here, Mimi. That's a sample. Okay, sample from a local association, but there could be something like this in your child's agenda. You might want to check that out. This should apply to all school volunteers. If you are going to write up a volunteer code of conduct, you want to do it in consultation with the school admin, and you will also have to get parents to have their police check done. So that the school is responsible to do the police checks, but you might want to ask the principal to have the forms available at the homeschool meetings so that people can fill them out. Okay, samples of annual reports. So there's 2 samples of president's reports from 23-24. The first sample on page 19 is a sample of a document that home and school might want to share with all the parents at the school by having it sent home with the report cards. So it's great that parents know what it is that you're doing. The second sample from pages 20-22 is more an evaluation of how the home and school year progressed. It's a great summary that can be used to pass on to your successor, and also to have at meetings when events are being discussed and planned so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Survival skills, it's in the kit, page 23. Okay, so evaluate your home and school. Is it stale? What are your objectives? What are you fundraising for? Remember, home and schools are not supposed to be carrying a large bank balance unless you're fundraising for a large project. So, keep in mind what you're doing and where the money's going. Consult with your principal. So I was home and school president at one point, and I always thought it was very important to give the principal the agenda ahead of time. If I knew that there was going to be anything coming up that might be a little controversial, I wanted to give the president some time, I want to give the principal some time to think over what the answers to questions might be, knowing that something might come up. I never wanted to put the principal in a position where they were being attacked by home and school members. I thought it was important to let them know what we were up to, what we wanted, and have a good relationship with them. It really makes for a better home and school association when the principal and the home and school are on the same page. It's also good to keep good relationships with the staff at the school. Home and school doesn't run the school, but they're there to help the school. It's also really great to have a good relationship with the governing board, and you can there is no rule that says governing board members can't be home and school members. As a matter of fact, we encourage it. It's a good way for the governing board and home and school to know what each other is doing. And if the governing board members, staff and parents, by the way, are members of home and school, then when items come up at governing board, you have allies and advocates to talk about what the home and school is looking for approval. Here's a very important one. Delegate, delegate, delegate. I can't say that enough. A home and school cannot be run solely by a president and the executive. We need people to help out. You need to have members take on responsibilities, to take on chairmanships. A president's job is really to keep their tabs on what is going on and not necessarily chair everything and anything. If you don't have enough people to run some things, you might have to cancel activities, because you can really burn out if you plan to do everything by yourself. The home and school is as good as its members. So encourage people to step up. Also, in my experience, when new members come, they probably want to do something, and giving people jobs to do, even small ones, to get their feet wet is a really good way to keep people coming back. Okay. New ideas for 2024. So this is a sheet of activities from President's Reports. Marlon can put you in contact with the home and schools if you want more information. So if you're looking for new ideas of what you can do, this is a great page to consult. And if you want to contact the home and school that did these things, that's what Marlon can help you out with. I keep seeing chat popping up, not long enough for me to read it though. Is there something there that I need to address, or are we going to?
So far, so good.
Yeah, we're good for now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay. We're good. Yeah.
All right. So treasurer's duty. So the general responsibility of a treasurer, kit pages 25 and 26. Nope. Okay, so if you have online banking, you have a list of approved vendors with approximate amounts remitted to them. You have to approve the disbursements monthly at home and school meetings. So anytime you decide to pay somebody something, it's got to be approved at home and school. You can't just say, "Oh, I did this, I did that," and the treasurer can't be writing checks without the home and school as approval. The That's also why we have two people writing the checks, so that the checks are written out and approved by two separate people and not just done together. Can I also add in here that I know at some point some organizations have presidents sign a whole bunch of checks, so the treasurer makes it easier on the treasurer to send things out. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if this is in the kit, but I'm going to say this is not a really good practice because signing a blank check is just giving your approval before you know what it is. So the check should be filled out, even if it takes a couple of weeks before the check is sent, just so you know, and you can keep tabs of all the checks that are sent out.
Agreed.
Pardon?
Agreed.
Yeah. I know as a president, I'd been asked to do that, and I had a treasurer be very angry with me that I wouldn't sign blank checks. Well, the former president did. Well, I said no. I said my name's on this check, and I'm responsible for it. So I want to know who it's going to and how much it's for. If you have online banking, or you have to make sure that former executive members or former signing authorities are removed from the online banking. You change the password and not give it to people who were there before. Only the people who have signing authority should have the password for the banking. There should also online banking, you want to use it for deposits only, not for sending money, because just we have that approval on the checks that two people have to approve it. I don't know if you can set this up on your bank account where if one person wants to e-transfer money, that it has to be approved by someone else, because it's really not a good idea for one person to be e-transferring without the approval of a second signing authority.
Mimi, do you want to jump in? Because you did the treasurer's workshop.
So there is one bank, BMO, that was running a pilot project a few years ago when I was the treasurer at the 690 Squadron for the Air Cadets. And they had representatives come and speak to us. It was something that they were trying out, but it hasn't really taken off as much. One of the ways around that is that if you're going to have e-transfers of outgoing payments, the only ones that are allowed to happen, I mean, the president and the treasurer should have access to the online banking so that they can see the accounts throughout the month. You should have a minute and approved list of spending in the month forward. So if you have a running spreadsheet, you would include that in your kit for your members attending the meeting, and you can have that list approved and then within a range, and then the president can just validate that those payments that have gone through have followed through on that list. You'll never get past a month, and you should be able to work together to make that list work for everybody. But no, there's no dual signatures for e-transfers yet. So we get around that with motioned approval of spending every month.
Yeah, and the key is that both the president and the treasurer have access to the bank account, so they can check up on each other.
Another great way to do that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not that, but you can, yeah, exactly. It's not a trust thing, but transparency also allows for trust to happen organically. One of the best things you can do is ask your bank to have 2 emails notified every time a transaction is gone through. So you can have the home and school email directly and the treasurer so that you can see a transaction record as it happens. So really on the fly, every time one's sent in, there's a confirmation. So everyone knows what's going on.
Oh, that's a really great idea. I like that. Okay. Also, sometimes you might find that the treasurer gets overwhelmed, or might be falling behind, is not up to date with sending out checks or giving reports. You can feel free to jump in and offer help, or get them help, because you really don't you don't want them to feel overwhelmed, and we're all in it together. So you want to make sure that things do run smoothly. treasurer is a difficult job, and we need to respect that. Moving along to tips for treasurers and committee chairs, pages 27, 28. So this document was developed last year as a quick reference sheet. Okay, so you might be able to use that to help you answer some questions. All right, I talked enough. I'm sending it back to Samantha.
Thank you, Bobby. So I'm going to continue. We're going to page 29. So the general duties of a membership chair. Although the bulk of the membership campaign is in the fall, parents will join at any time during the year. Your home and school bylaws will list the final date to join before your AGM. The more input you're going to have from your parents, it's better for your home and school, and also and the recruitment from parents from the younger grades is the best because they're the ones who continue the life of your home and school going through the years. You may get a lot of questions of why they have to pay the $20. So on page 30 in your kit, you're going to see that there's an information sheet which explains more about what the QFHSA does as a provincial organization. And you can share this with your parents to explain to them, why they pay the $20. The insurance form samples, kids page in your kit, pages 31 and 32. This is how the form needs to be filled out. These forms have been recently updated, and good news, you can now apply for your insurance online with our 2 Google forms. One is for your blanket food insurance, and the other is for your event insurance. You can find them on the homepage of our website, as well as on the forms page. Mimi, do you want to say a little bit more about this one, or?
Just that we've had a great response this year. It seems the forms are hitting the right note. I've received a ton in the first few weeks of school. So I'm really proud of all our home and schools making sure that they're protected with their food blanket policies. I do want to just make one really important distinction between the 2 applications. The first one is that the blanket food insurance is simply to cover events where the home and school is providing the food and the food service. So if you're doing a pizza day, a sub day, TESOL where you're bringing in a lunch for the teachers, if the only thing your volunteers are doing are setting up, taking down, and serving the food, then that is your blanket food will cover it. You apply for it once in September, or as soon as you know about it, so maybe October. But our policy at the QFHSA renews in February. So in February, what happens is that I will contact the insurance company and make sure you have a renewed certificate for your blanket food till the end of the school year. So you don't need to reapply. But if your volunteers are doing anything outside of food service, so a carnival where they're selling tickets for something, or if you've hosted it, if you have vendors, if you're using school property after hours, that is all considered event, and those ones need an application per event because the parameters of each event change, the vendors that you use change. The facilities you might also be using change as well. So because there's so many variables, that one is a per event event application. But for the blanket food, all of your food service for the whole year is covered under that certificate. So you can go old school, print out a hard copy from the internet. We do have the PDFs of these ones that you see in front of you, and these are just my my messy handwriting to show you all what to put in there. But if not, try the Google Forms. They're new this year, and I think they're working out great. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that it's a 10-day turnaround on the application to receipt of your certificate, because the form that you send me completed, whether it's on Google or hard copy, is just the template that I use to then fill out your application with our broker. So it is not going directly to the broker, your form that you fill out and hand to me. And then when I hand it to them, it's out of my hands and off my desk, and there's not much I can do to expedite the process. I've had times where I've had a day turnaround, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that, where you've submitted an application and I've been able to send it by the end of the day, which is always happy news. But we've also had some nail-biting nervous moments about 2 hours before our carnival starts, and we're still not certificate in hand. So just remember to leave as much time as you possibly can between your application and your event. And you cannot apply for event insurance if you're serving liquor until you've applied for your permit. You don't have to have received it yet, but you have to be able to confirm to me that you have applied for it. And Marlon has a handy template to help you apply using the NEQ for permits to serve alcohol at your events. And that's it. And there's absolutely no coverage for bouncy castles. For the third year in a row, I still get questions, but we just don't cover them. Our insurances just don't do it anymore.
So
And
there
that's
was, I'm
Couple
going to
of
get to
questions.
Lucy's question in a second because she's got her hand up, but somebody was asking, have they ever refused an insurance application? Mimi.
Yes, yes, they have. We've had after school sports, and that's a big one. Back in the day, a lot of homeschools would run sporting programs after school, but now it's required of the vendor to have their own insurance if they're coming into the school and to have that shown and proven to the school board. So the homeschools are not covered for events in which sporting activities are taking place. That liability level of insurance is so high. I mean, we pay the upwards of tens of thousands of dollars for our policy yearly to cover all of our insurance. It's a very costly endeavor. If sporting events were included, which I don't even think we could actually get them covered anymore. They took that off. And bouncy castles is just too much of a danger element. I hope that covered the question. It's been a long day.
Lucy?
Yes, we're planning on holding our first holiday markets in which vendors would rent their own tables and sell their own products. But Home and School is planning to have a table of a concession stand. Would that be covered under the blanket insurance, or would we need to apply separately as an event for that one?
Definitely the event insurance, and I'll make the distinction very clearly so that I can use that as an example if you don't mind, Lucy. I appreciate it's a fantastic question. I get asked this privately at the office all the time. So if I can say as many people as possible at the same time, if you're using the facility at the school, it's an event. It's not the school holding a carnival or a fair and the homeschool's only running the food table. If that was the case, then your food coverage would be fine. But you're hosting the event, like you're asking the school board, may we have this space on a Friday or Saturday? They're giving you permission to use their facilities. The minute you are the one responsible for their facilities, event insurance is very important. In fact, the school board usually doesn't allow for anyone to use their premises if they're not able to prove that they are insured. So it's very, very important that you do apply for an insurance for an event in that case. Because you don't know any of those vendors that attend there can cause damage while they're there. I mean, if the homeschool is the one who has made the contract or the deal with the school board to use the property, even if it's just principal permission, they may have contacted the school board on your behalf, but you need to make sure that you are covered with event insurance. Does that answer your question, Lucy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to answer this one. So our insurance has not covered bouncy castles in probably 8 to 10 years. And we put it in every QFHSA news. We put it all over the place. So sometimes you'll get the school to have the contract with the vendor. So they would sign for the bouncy castles and Home and School could give the school money for the bouncy castles. But then even we heard last year that I think it was Lester B. Mimi, am I correct? They weren't even willing to sign the insurance with the insurance contract with the vendor. So
yeah, that changed
for
last
us,
year.
We've been preaching this for 8 to 10 years, and we still get this question all the time. So Mimi, do you want to elaborate?
I think you summarized it really well there. If we did have a skirt around for a while because the policy at the QFHSA and for a lot of school boards, because we all get our insurances from similar places, have cut out a lot of the more what they consider to be a high risk activities. But the school boards were able to hang on to them a little bit longer. So one of the ways that they were being kind enough was to pay the vendors for us as home schools and have the school board coverage take over the responsibility or liability of the vendors, which was great for us. But even their insurances won't allow that anymore as of last year. So it's tough. It's tough. You have to check with your school boards. I know that we represent schools around the province and so many different school boards, so not everyone's the same. Lester B was one of the last ones to lose it locally here on island, but yeah, check. And if you're not sure, send me an email. I can call and find out for you.
Mimi, do you want to read the chat? Can you see it?
There's another question about the
I
insurance.
can.
Yeah, about
So I'm actually,
bouncy
I
castles.
can
Yeah.
read it. It says I have
I'm in the
another.
middle of, sorry.
Do you want me to read
Yeah,
it for you?
I was just answering the corn roast one, but by the time I'm finished typing one, 3 more questions are in. So I might just answer that one out loud first because I'm losing it at the top of the screen. The corn roast is considered an event because unless it's happening at lunchtime and the school's putting it on, there's a higher risk of things happening, and it's on property and it's after school. So those would all be things that would qualify it as an event. Wow, but not surprised. Yeah, they're dangerous. Insurances do not cover bouncy houses. They do not. Some bouncy castle companies have their own third-party insurance, and that's why we were saying contact the school board and ask them if that's sufficient, because you'll still need an event insurance from the home and school since we're the ones signing our names to the contract for the spot, the location. But you can ask if a third-party insurance, if this is one of the stipulations Lester B let us do, is have the third-party insurance come in. You contact your vendor and the vendor lists you on their policy as a third-person party on their insurance. Insurance is a really P's and Q's kind of business. So I really highly encourage you, if there's a gray area and you're not sure, I am here for questions. So let me know, because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you didn't have coverage and you thought you did. So I hope that answers that.
Did you see this Hillcrest one?
I'm just getting to that one. Yeah, I have another question. If you're having a fun day and we have bouncy castles, plus a bunch of other things too, the school pays for bouncy castles. Yeah, that's what we were doing. And if your school board's still allowing that, I would say go right ahead and take advantage of it. Your school board can apply for the insurance as long as their name is on the contract with the vendor as opposed to the home and school. Then absolutely pay the school. Like they can bill you afterwards. Like you can pay for it in advance with a check to the school. But just make sure there is no place where the home and school's name is on a contract with a vendor of a bouncy castle, because that implies direct liability in case of any accidents. You really want the school board to be the one receiving the invoicing. I think that Catherine, did that answer your question? I'm just reading quickly here. Create an event insurance separately and everything's all right. Yeah. So yeah, you definitely want food insurance all the time. But like I said, anything over that, apply for event. And if you're not sure, email me.
Thank you, Mimi. Any other questions? Well, I'm going to pass it back to Rose now. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, my dear. You guys have asked amazing questions tonight. They're really good, thought-wrenching questions, but are there any others? I will ask one more time. Any other questions? Catalin, I am trying to fill the form online and it's not working. The form for insurance, you mean?
Yeah, if you would be more specific. I received an application today, so if something's not working, it's relatively new.
Because I'm on it online to any of them, and none of it opens on my part.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stop screen sharing, and I'll bring it up in the background so I can check that. Okay, we can all see each other. It's Hollywood Squares. So ask any other questions that anyone has, and I'll have an answer for you in just 2 seconds.
Okay, so you'll check on that for Catalin then? Okay.
We were having some problems with some of the forms on the website. So if you copy the link into your browser, it might open. It's something to do with our website. So like, let's say you wanted to open the Constitution and bylaws, you might have to paste it into your browser. Even I have to do it for some of them. Our website's getting a little
Old.
I'm not having an issue opening it up right now, but that doesn't mean that you're not having an issue. So I'm just going to open up so you can see what the forms look like. So yeah, so that's it. So on the oops, where's it?
Whoops, you lost it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Just go to our website. Just takes a second. Sorry, I have like 1,000 screens open on my laptop right now. And if you go under forms, can everyone see what I'm doing with my cursor? I just want to make sure you can all see it. Yeah? Okay, good. So I should get a schnauzy cursor. I just for moments like this. Okay, so then you go under insurance. Does everyone see the section over here? So you can see if you click on the emboldened areas here, you can get the general forms. But if you go into the little icon here that says Google Form, that just takes you directly over to the document like this. So here's our event insurance, and you just follow it through. You can see all my little A's because I was testing I was testing it out before we sent it live. But it's just basically a lot of toggled questions. You're kind of pigeonholed down a pathway to make sure that you don't miss any questions that are important for me to know. So when I apply on your behalf, I don't have to contact you 50 times. Like, oh, by the way, we still need to know. This will get it done faster, which is what I think we all want. So that's the event insurance. And I think we go back, you can see I had some fun with Canva. Every opportunity to make a fun banner. And then here we go. The second form here, that's our blanket food insurance. And this one's a lot shorter. And all that you need to do is your email, your school address, your contact. And I just need for you guys to list off anything that you might be using as an example. If you miss something and it still qualifies for blanket food, it will be covered as the general food policy. So don't worry if you've forgotten something, but try to be as comprehensive as you can be, because that's also a great way for me to catch anyone who may not have understood what's covered and what's not under blanket food. Because if you list something in your list of things that you want covered under this policy, and I see like carnival, I'll know right away to contact you and say, we're gonna have to talk about this. I think you need a different form. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. I'm sorry, Catalin, if you can't, but access it.
Catalin actually said she was able to do it by copying. It opened.
Oh, good, because Marlon had a point. We were having difficulties with certain browsers. So if that's still an issue, I didn't realize it was, but if it is, then absolutely. If that works for you, copy paste and off you go.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I know a few people had to leave. I'm sorry I couldn't get to say goodbye to them as they basically came off. I guess they have issues, babysitting issues, or children that have to have bath time before going to bed.
And just a word of caution, if you are applying for a liquor permit, you need an extra special letter from us, and it can take up to 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So if you're planning like a comedy night or something, you got to get your stuff in early, because then you need to get insurance from us after you get your permit. So you got to be a couple of months in advance for planning that type of event.
Okay, are there any other questions? Please understand, our staff and our directors are available for you anytime. Like, just get in touch with us if you have any questions that weren't addressed tonight, and someone will answer you. Okay. Margaret Manson had a question. Sorry, I missed it.
Sort of about principal going to the meeting. Actually, the parents love to hear the principal's report because they know what's going on in the school. I know it's sometimes a lot of the principals, they have their families, they've got to run to hockey or they're taking a class at night. So if you can be a bit flexible on your meeting dates, if not, ask them to send in a written report that the teacher rep can read or that you can read. Because it's actually, yes, parents love to see other parents, but it's actually the principal that they really want to hear from. But do you have a teacher rep at your meetings?
Yeah, we have a teacher and the principal. We were just wondering if it's required that she.
No, but it's helpful.
She doesn't have to stay the whole meeting, correct? She can give her report and then.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you've sat down with her before the meeting and cleared off some dates, because that's the other issue is if you say, oh, okay, maybe we'll pick this date, and the teacher rep doesn't know what everybody in the school's doing. If the principal's at the meeting, they can look through their agenda and say, oh, that's not going to work. Grade 6 is going on a field trip that day or something. You know, it just might save you some time. But if you know that he or she can't make it, you can sit down ahead of time and try to clear some of your dates with her. Mm-hmm. So when you're at your meeting, you don't have to wait another month to make plans. Samantha?
Can I on that one? So
As a former president, what I used to do is, which was extremely helpful, is because, you know, the principals get really busy, or if your school has a VP, because sometimes the VPs come instead of the principals, so it could be either or. But what I would do is I would, you know, like you have your home and school calendar where you plan your stuff out for the year. What I would do before we start going into our home and school meetings is sit with the principal and go through both our calendars together so that we could see what could be tentative dates that she would be open to. And those are the ones we would propose when we had our meetings. So that when we go into a home and school meeting, we looked at it together and said, well, these are the dates that are available so that she can also plug them in her calendar from the get-go. Sometimes we did it like 2 months at a time or 3 months at a time, but it helped the principal a lot to be more able to come to your meeting because they get full very quickly. So that's a suggestion, you know, to get them to come, or with the VP, one or the other.
We kind of
At our
have
home
a
and schools.
problem.
Oh, sorry, Margaret Manson.
We schedule our meetings around governing board as well. So like we do ours about a week prior to governing board so we can bring things to them. The issue is not that she's not joining. The issue is that
she's over participating in our meetings, and she's trying to push her own agenda forward. And she's trying to kind of like, she's basically trying to control our committee. And she's constantly asking about our budget. Recently, we proposed a give back to the students at our first meeting back. And then we received a phone call after that she didn't like how we presented that give back for the students without consulting with her first, which we were kind of surprised about because we didn't think we had to consult with her about something that we wanted to do for the students. Of course, we have to coordinate with her about what dates we could use, but it's up to our members to vote on whether or not we want to go forward with it. So we're just trying to figure out like how to work with her, but we're also trying to like feel out like
what are the boundaries we can set?
Is she pushing too far, or are we unaware that she's allowed to?
Is she a paid member?
No.
So she's just the rep for the teachers that
Yeah,
attend your meetings. Okay.
Is it a new principal this year?
No, this is the teach. Is this the teacher rep or the principal?
The principal.
Oh, the principal. Okay.
Yeah.
We've
I think it's better to sit down, like Samantha
Yeah.
said, in chunks, like August to December. This is what we'd like to do. And some of them like to go to teacher staff council with the home and school ideas even before they come to the home and school meeting and to governing board. So it's just so that they get the idea from the staff, what they think of something, or maybe the staff is planning something similar and they don't want two things that look the same, or things like that. I think anything home and school supports is a vote, right? It's a democratic vote, but if a principal is against an idea, you really can't do it. Like whether it's a good idea or a fantastic idea, if they're against it, it's still their school. And I think that's what sometimes home and school doesn't remember that. So it's a delicate balance, and you could say, well, if you're not happy with, this type of idea that we wanted to do for the students, what would you like to see us do? And maybe there's some type of compromise or something, an idea that she feels would benefit the student body more. I think it's a delicate situation because you do want to do things for the kids, but maybe it has to be more of we've always done this, we want to do this again, as opposed to what kind of new ideas do you have? More of a carrot approach rather than like the stick approach. Even though, I don't know if that's the best way to term it, but or let's say you want
an analogy we all understand.
You understand. Or if you, let's say
analogy we all understand.
Let's say the principal wanted home and school to purchase something, and the home and school members were kind of like, we don't really want to put all our money into that item or those items. then you could say to the principal, look, maybe we can give you half the money and you can rearrange your budget and we'll give you money for something else in another department that maybe home and school members would be a little bit more
Open to.
agreeable to. Like
Yeah.
a bit of give and take sometimes.
Marlon,
It's
can I make a suggestion? Would you
Sure.
mind, Marlon, just for a moment? A strategy that we've employed at our own school, because we went through 5 principals in 6 years. So we definitely had principals who were more familiar with home schools, some that wanted to take the lead of our parent organization, some who never came to any meetings. But I think that we all know the dynamic of our home and school pretty well. We get to know each other. And there is always interpersonal relationships that work better in certain circumstances. And if there's a home and school member who is kind of like, we all joke that Marlon is our Switzerland in the office. She's very neutral party. If you have someone who's good at talking to difficult people or managing situations like that, they could always be your administration liaison. And maybe they have a more delicate or less involved way of putting your message across to the principal. It doesn't have to be someone on the executive even. You can create a position if you really have a desperate situation where you need to manage a difficult person in your group. It might also leave the executive a little bit more at arm's length from the principal. So you can have a little bit more of a break from that. And, there's also the other strategy of breaking conversations into committees. And so where the committee would report what their decisions kind of were to the group, and then you can vote on them, at the meeting, rather than having an open discussion for half an hour, 45 minutes on a topic that the principal seems to have a lot of thoughts upon. So if you had a committee chair, and then she would have to actually join the committee to have the opinions or to speak on those points, which might contain her enthusiasm a little bit. But I mean, I can't say it's a bad thing to have a principal who comes to a meeting. I think it's probably worse if you have one who knows absolutely nothing about home schools.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, someone who's overly enthusiastic sometimes can be a little bit of a difficult situation to manage. So we definitely all hear you and empathize, I'm sure. All of us who have years of experience. I'm sorry, Marlon, to have cut in. I just said
no, and
strategies
I was
we've
going to
employed.
say,
Yeah.
this is to have to sit down and look at the educational project. What are the the fundraising goals? Do we want to start a robotics program? How can homeschool help? Like that kind of conversation at the beginning of the year kind of puts everybody on the same page. And then through the year, okay, well, this fundraiser did well. We'd like to do an extra pizza lunch for the kids, or we'd like to, I don't know, have a holiday breakfast or something we've never done before because we have this extra funds and we'd like to do some more community events, maybe bring a play in, just sort of things like that. But I think if people get on the same page sort of at the beginning of the year, and then, the teachers, like, what are they working on? And are they bringing requests to the home and school meeting? Like, oh, we're really looking besides wish list, but let's say, I need volunteers to help with this, or does someone have extra fabric at home? We're doing a project. Like, how much are the teachers involved, or is she also dictating what the teacher rep is going to say? That's kind of another issue, because the
And
teacher rep should be soliciting the rest of the teachers and saying, okay, what do you want me to bring up at the home and school meeting? Oh, I'm short volunteers for a field trip. If there are any parents that don't have kids in grade 4, I really need bodies, that type of conversation. But then I've had a couple of calls this year about teachers, principal wanting to take home and school stuff to staff council, and that's not unusual, especially at the high school level, because there's just so much going on at the high school, and then to home and school, then to governing board. So you might have to be extra prepared because it's got to go through another committee, another layer.
You should all know as well, with our fall conference that's coming up in November on the 16th, we are going to have a round table portion of that where conversation points like this would be amazing. I'm reading down some of the questions, and they're long to answer because they're important, and they're also ones that the most input that we can get from the community at large, the better answers you're going to get. So we have seen a lot as staff, and as the board. But I think that sometimes questions like this posed to a larger group, you get some really interesting answers. So I was reading down the list, Marlon, as you were speaking, and one of the other questions was how to make it more interesting for staff members to join who are not so keen on being a part of the community. And I if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of put that one on a shelf for our first, what we used to call regional councils. We're trying out roundtables. We'll see how that flies if everyone makes the connection. But that would be a really great topic, a talking point for that group, because then whatever answers we get, we can also publish in an ideas list, if that's okay to put that one on a shelf for now.
Yeah,
I
sounds
do
good.
know that some homeschools pay for their memberships for their staff. That's another great way, so that it's not going to be any kind of an expense on their part. Trying to incorporate as many online meetings or meetings that happen earlier in the evening. That's another great one to get staff to stay, because not you as parents are assigned, communities are assigned to schools, right? So the travel distance for you is very much to do with where you were assigned to have your public education for your child. But teaching jobs happen, people travel across the island. So if you can imagine the interest of someone who's worked a full day, traveling back to their house or hanging around for hours before the meeting happens, it's an arduous process for them, and it is their workplace. So, you know, being sensitive to doing things earlier in the evening or online means that they can go home, have spaghetti, put their kids to bed, get their comfy pants on, and join you over Zoom from across the island, rather than hanging out in a place that they don't live.
And
So
some home
things
and
to
schools
consider.
will give in their bylaws the principal and the teacher rep an honorary membership that can be voting or non-voting. And in my day, we had a lot of teachers, quite a few teachers, support homeschool by buying a membership, but they never came to a meeting because it was just one more meeting, but they got the minutes and they knew what was going on, and they were supporting the volunteer efforts of the parents in their school, right? So I doubt that they would probably vote if you had some type of online vote or something for an emergency, but to have actual teachers come back for a home and school meeting, doubtful, unless it's online. Yeah.
They have to be pretty committed to hang out for 3 hours after work.
Yeah.
Some of the questions and ideas that people had were pre-scheduling all their meetings for the year, and I agree, that's nice. We at our homeschool, we always did third Tuesdays. So, you know, half the dads are doing scouts and all this kind of stuff. We know what night works best for most people. When governing board is also another great time to make sure that you know what time theirs are, because you have to ask, you know, for their clearance on certain events that you want to hold. So it's great to have your ideas come out, and then a week later you don't have to wait too long before you get hopefully an approval. Sometimes, yeah, I'm reading comments. Administration, it can be tricky. Sometimes you just don't get a group that gels well. But like I said, trying to find your most neutral member is really great. Because
Okay.
they're great at making peace. I can't see any other questions. Recommended for teacher reps to be paid members. I think we answered that. Sorry,
Well-
Rose. I'd like to cut it off. I just want to just read the last 3 questions, if that's okay.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah. No,
Okay,
they're
they also
perfect.
can't-
We've had some amazing questions here tonight. Very good ones.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So they also can't force homeschool to pay for things that they don't agree upon. No, absolutely not. That's one of the reasons that's so great to have a homeschool. It's a parent organization on the outside of the school's administration. It represents the places that the parents of the school community would like to see the enrichment projects and things like that, and the monies to go to
That's
support
why
the
I
school.
mentioned the horse trading, though.
Yeah.
Like if parents don't
Yeah.
want to spend all the money on one thing, that you arrange to pay for something else
Yeah.
in lieu of that item.
And I
Was
can
there
see my
anything
microphone
else?
finally, Rose.
Anything
We're
else,
done.
Mimi?
I've gotten to the bottom, and I'm
Okay.
gonna zip it.
Okay, you're muted now. Is that okay, or? Okay. I didn't mute you. You did that yourself. Okay. Any other questions? This was a very, very good evening. I've heard so many good things come out of you guys tonight, and it's a very good beginning for us to have our town hall when we have our conference. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I can't thank really and truly. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Samantha, for your leadership in tonight for that. And I thank Mimi and Marlon for all the answers that they presented tonight too. So it's great. So please do not forget November 16th, and please go out and vote. Very, very important. Okay. So thank you again, and have a very good evening. Have a good year. Please have a great year. And don't forget, we're here if you ever need us to help you out in any way. We're here. Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Have a great
Bye.
evening. Bye.
See some
all.
of you Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
gonna cry.
Natasha.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye.
I'll see
Bye.
Samantha. You coming tomorrow?
I can't.
You can't? Okay, I understand.